In our first segment of lesson 9, we're going to talk about probability itself. We're going to define it. I'll give you a few examples, and we'll talk about different ways to express probability as well. So what is probability? Let's define it this way by looking at an example. Let's say I have a bag that has 20 marbles in it. 2 of them are purple, 3 are green, 4 are, sorry, I said that wrong. 2 are purple, 3 are red, 4 are green, 5 are yellow, and 6 are blue. So we have a different variety of different categories, right? Whenever you have a category, you can apply it this way. These colors are just different categories. If I draw a marble at random, what are the chances of getting a yellow marble? Well, I can fish in the bag for any of the 20 marbles. I can only pull out one. How many of those 20 are yellow? 5 of the 20 marbles are yellow. So there are 5 different possible marbles I could choose that would be yellow. So the probability of drawing a yellow would be 5 out of 20, which is 0.25. Okay, so probability is essentially just the ratio of successful outcomes to possible outcomes. Out of all the 20 marbles I could have drawn, only 5 of them would have been a successful outcome. They would have been yellow. Okay, so it's the ratio of successful outcomes to possible outcomes, and you just divide the two numbers like this, and that's probability. That's really all it is. The complicated definition I gave you earlier, don't worry about that. We'll get to it in the next video, but we can assume probability is this, the ratio of successful outcomes to possible outcomes. Now, we say, well, probabilities are often given as a percent. Yes, let me show you where the percent comes from. So we saw that the probability of drawing a yellow marble is 0.25. Now, another way to write a decimal is as a fraction. So 0.25 would be 25 out of 100. Okay, 0.25 would be 25 out of 100. That phrase out of 100 can be resaid as per 100 or per cent, because cent means 100. So 25 per 100 would be 25%. There you go. That's where the percentage is. So probability of drawing a yellow would be 0.25, which is the same thing as 25%. So let's come back here. What about our bag of 20 marbles? There are 2 purple, 3 red, 4 green, 5 yellow, 6 blue. If I draw a marble at random, what are the chances of drawing a red marble? Well, 3 out of the 20 marbles are red. That is a misprint there. I apologize. 3 out of the 20 marbles are red. So that means that the probability of drawing a red marble is 3 out of 20, which comes out to be 0.15. If I want to write that as a percentage, 0.15 would be 15%. All right, let's try another example. Let me read these 3 problems to you, and then I want you to pause the video, see if you can figure them out yourself. When you roll a die, what's the probability of rolling a 6? Think of the number of possible successful outcomes and the number of possible outcomes, and then take that ratio. Second question, when you roll a die, what is the probability of rolling either a 1 or a 2? Third question, when you roll a die, what is the probability of rolling an even? Okay, pause the video, see if you can answer these 3 questions. All right, what's the probability of rolling a 6? Well, how many ways can you roll a 6 with one die? Well, there's only one way. You roll it and you get a 6. Okay, so the successful outcomes would be rolling a 6. And that's indicated here in the numerator. But all the possible outcomes, I could roll a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. That means that there are 6 possible outcomes all told. Just count how many possible outcomes you have. There are 6 total possible outcomes, only one of which is a success. 1 divided by 6 is 0.1667, which we could write as 16.67%. Okay, next question. When you roll a die, what's the probability of rolling either a 1 or a 2? Okay, so what are the possible outcomes? They're the same. Rolling a die, I could still only roll a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6. That's it. Those are the only possible outcomes. But this time, a success could be defined by rolling either a 1 or a 2. So in this case, 1s and 2s are both counted as successes. That means there are 2 successful outcomes out of the 6 possible. So that comes out to be 0.3333, which is 33.33%. When you roll a die, what's the probability of rolling an even? Okay, if you answered earlier and after answering these last 2 questions, you want to change your answer, go ahead and pause the video again and try this again. See if you can answer it. Okay, here's the answer. What's the probability of rolling an even? Well, there are 3 different possible even numbers: 2, 4, and 6. So there are 3 successful outcomes out of our total of 6 outcomes. So 3 successful out of a total of 6, 3 out of 6 would be 0.50, which is 50%. There you go. That's the basics of probability. You now know how to do basic probabilities of single events. Take one event, what would be the probability of a particular outcome? Now we've got to address this question. Do I want to use decimals or do I want percentages? In the end, it doesn't really matter whether you write it as a decimal or a percentage, but you've got to do it properly. Okay. Now, that being said, in mathematics, the decimal form is often far more useful than the percent notation. Especially in the second half of this course, we're going to use the decimal form a lot. But when you report the number at the end of the problem, if you want to report it in as a percentage, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that if you do, you include the percent sign. So for example, I have 3 numbers down here at the bottom. What's the probability of rolling a 6? Well, 3 different students answer it this way. One student answers 0.1667, another answers 16.67, and the third answers 16.67%. All right. So which one of these would I mark incorrectly? Hopefully you can see that one. That would be the one in the middle. That would be marked incorrect. Why? Because they converted it to a percent without telling me it was a percent. If you want it as a percentage, you have to have the percent sign with it as well. If you don't have that percent sign, I'm going to treat it like a decimal, and that is not the correct decimal. This is the correct decimal, okay? So decimals do not have that percent sign. If you want it as a percentage, include the percent sign. Personally, I would say make it easy on yourself. Just do decimal form. That's what we're going to use in the second half of the course anyway. Just do decimal form. But I want you to always remember the relationship between decimal form and percent form.